a podcast to honor the gods.
This better come with a sacrifice.
Dave X Media.
Welcome to The Bits, hosted by your favorite jam buds, Robert and
Charlie with breaking news.
The breaking news is that we have secured podcast future stability.
Yeah, we have podcast security. You know,
Yeah,
that thing that our beloved Michael Schubert likes to say, job security, except this is not our jobs. I wish it
No.
was.
Oh,
But
same. It'd be great if this was our job, but unfortunately it's not. Yeah, so in case you didn't hear this, I bless future me, who's an aka tomorrow me, who has to edit this. We're recording this Wednesday, June 11th. Who is going to edit this on because we found out today that we are getting a sequel series to Steven Universe, but it's a spinoff.
Lars of the Stars. Oh my god, that's gonna be a great theme song though, right? Right.
I was talking to Mac about this, and we're like, yeah, no, this is probably the perfect thing to do for a spinoff or sequel or reboot or something, because the alternative that you and I have talked about is doing like a prequel, showing the Gem War.
Yeah.
But then it's like, listen, I kind of like what we do know, and I like that we don't know a lot. I think it would ruin something about the magic if we got like a full-on series about the Gem War.
But like we don't know much. We just know it's Lars of the Stars, and that will probably be, you know, expanding the universe of, you know, the gem such things. I want to know how the gems were made. Like the diamonds. That's what I want to know from this series.
Well, when a mommy gem and a daddy gem love each other very much.
I'm just thinking, because like gems are made, they do not evolve, they are not organic. So we can basically understand how organic people, you know, and like creatures came about through like scientific things. We know.
Yeah, through fucking, yeah.
Yeah, and evolution and all of that such.
And through
But
fucking.
like the diamonds?
And through fucking.
Yes, I understand. I understand fucking was involved. Gems do not have to fuck to reproduce.
They don't have to fuck, but
they don't have to. So, and they have to be made. I'm just saying, that's what I want to learn out of any gem things that I want to learn. Also, I mean, I want to learn what the fuck Lars is up to, because he's still a fugitive, I guess. In this series, he's still a space pirate. Do we have confirmation that Rebecca Sugar is like a Star Trek person? Because I feel like that's kind of the vibe. Not quite, but kind of. Like,
yeah, I don't know, man.
No,
I feel
it's not Star Trek. There's an anime that Lars is based off of, I think. Is it Captain Harlock?
Probably. Who knows?
I think
Here's
that's
the thing.
the one.
We have gone on record saying that. Okay, hold on. I've gone on record calling the Steven Universe team a bunch of fucking weebs.
Yes, this is correct.
I need to say this out loud because I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but I will be sending out emails to certain peoples to maybe get them on the pod. And I want people to know that I'm the problem, not Charlie.
We cannot keep making our terrible jokes if we want to get actual people.
Rebecca Sugar, if you've listened to any of the previous episodes,
only listen to our season 1. It's probably better.
No, fuck you. I think Rebecca Piss is a funny joke. No. No. Rebecca Sugar, if you've listened to this show, Charlie apologizes. I don't.
You know what? They could always argue with us about why that was included and be like, Cartoon Network made me. You know, kid shows, they have to have the bathroom jokes. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know what? I could write that off. Rick Riordan is on thin fucking ice.
Yeah, Rick Riordan's on thin fucking ice. Before we begin this episode, Charlie, did the postman bring us any post?
Hey, Mr. Postman, bring me a post. Bring me the post I love the most.
Wow, it's Mr. Postman during Pride. Is it not Mix Postman? Mix Post Person?
Well, it's Jamie. Like Jamie is the postman. I don't know what to tell you.
We got a couple of lovely little LGBT themed emails from you lovely listeners. Thank you for listening to Charlie cry and finally sending some posts.
I'm gonna be honest here. We just got a lot of posts in general,
Yeah.
and
To keep on theme, we're sticking to the queer ones. We'll read the other ones at some point.
that have some gay because we got a few of them.
So this first email comes from Kit.
It's called Gasp, a post. Greetings, Robert and Charlie. Once upon a time, I had a whole email drafted in my head of things to tell you, but alas, it's late, and I've forgotten what I was going to say. In your coverage of When It Rains, you asked for emails, so fuck it, here we go. Sorry in advance if this turns into an essay. I'm prone to such yapping. You don't have to read this email in the pod if you don't want to because of its length. Oh well, we are. You totally have permission to, but I feel like I should at least warn you. I just wanted to share a personal story of why the show is special to me.
For some background, my name is Kit, she, her, and I found Steven Universe because a friend started playing the answer on the school's smartboard during a meeting of our high school LGBTQ plus club. I wish I had an LGBTQ plus club. That would have been great. It would help me figure things out a lot sooner than high school. Hey, y'all, have I told the story of how I made out with my guy best friend for a bunch of years and I still thought I was straight until I was 18?
I love that for you so much.
Maybe older. I think I was like 19 or 20 when I came to terms that I wasn't straight. Anyways, being both this was like 2023, so fairly recently. Being both gay and a fan of cartoons like the Owl House, it was love at first sight. However, Steven Universe has one incredibly major thing that Owl House is not, which I would like to shout out because I've never seen it discussed: representation of body types.
I know. That seems insignificant. The show has gay people. That's way more revolutionary. However, as a former dancer with body dysmorphia and recovering from an eating disorder, the variation in body types, especially among the good guys, impacted me very deeply and was one of the most encouraging things I found on my healing journey. For example, the main protagonist, the lovable, cute hero, Steven himself, is a chunky little guy. He loves donuts and junk food, and that's great. He's never mocked for his appearance. Additionally, you have Rose Quartz, who is very much a giant woman, and she is portrayed as the epitome of grace, beauty, and attractiveness, with men and women falling in love with her left and right. Not only that, but we get shorty squad representation, curvy bodies like Garnet's, and even Pearl. None of it is sexualized either, besides maybe Rose, but These characters are just existing. It could have been so easy for the writers to make fat jokes about Steven the way so many other chubby characters in media are reduced to, but they didn't. Usually diversity in body types is represented for the comic relief characters, or more commonly, the villains. Occasionally you'll get the token, non-stick side character if you're lucky, but that's not at all the case for Steven Universe. Maybe it's silly, but this was revolutionary to me, and I haven't seen anything quite like it since. So I just wanted to give a massive shout out to the Crewniverse for all the diversity put into the show, sung and unsung. It really does mean a lot to people. This meant a lot to me. Watching the show when it did gave me a major boost of inspiration to keep working to heal my relationship with my body, and I've come a long way. So thanks, Steven Universe.
Sorry, that was pretty irrelevant to anything that's currently happening in the pod. I just have thoughts, TM, and you did ask for email, so this is your fault. I've written like 20 pages worth of essays on Steven Universe for fun, so I hope you enjoyed this very abridged version of one of the essays. Maybe I'll drop the Pink Diamond essay in the future. Anyway, that's all for now, folks. Have a marvelous day. Best wishes, Kit. P.S. You are correct. Peridot is the best. Thank you, Kit. That was a wonderful email, and that's honestly another aspect of the representation of the show that we probably wouldn't have mentioned.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think about that compared to the Owl House. I feel like the Owl House just has like Willow, who is our like chubby character of the group. There is the mostly more stickish characters in that show comparatively.
Right.
I don't think about it as much. But in Steven Universe, there's so many different body types. Like you get tiny ass Peridot, you get giant bismuth, and yeah, it's so good. Also, Kit, if you're listening to this episode, I would highly recommend to you She-Ra and the Princesses of Power if you haven't seen it yet, because gay and also body diversity. Like the original She-Ra show from, was it like the 70s or 80s or something, did not have body diversity because it was, made to sell dolls. But the 2016 show, oh my goodness. Everybody, different body types, beautiful, wonderful. We love it. We love to see it.
Our next email comes from Hello, Jam Buds. I'm back at it again with another doozy for you. I swear I'll try and make it shorter this time. F in chat. I just finished listening to It Could Have Been Great, and I am embarrassed, to put it simply. If no one else has sent posts in between that episode and when whatever episode is released with this post, I'm going to start crying.
We definitely got several posts in between things. It's fine.
To start, some follow-ups.
While I am aware of the upload schedule of the podcast I listen to, the concept of Podcast Fridays is less about when the respective podcasts go up and more about when the last podcast update for the week is released. I then go into my Spotify app and download all the latest episodes in my desired order, and the result is a block of anywhere between 5 and 8 hours of people talking about fun things that I either relate to or find funny. It's like rotating through groups of friends. But I fear that makes me parasocial. You guys going through my email and being able to strike up a whole conversation about it, i.e. the gender segment, made my TISM brain go, oh heck, do I have new friends? You tell me.
After the episode on The Answer, I am 3 for 3 a mega fan on how Darian talks about queer shit. It feels like they're holding my heart, and it makes me think of how a parent holds their child and speaks softly and shows them all the wonderful things about the world they get to grow up in and be a part of. It helps me feel like the gays are going to be okay. It's me. I'm the gays. The way they talk about various scenes and themes with a depth that would have never occurred to me makes my neurons activate and fire rapidly. For instance, in that scene from The Answer where Garnet meets Rose and Pearl again, where she says, "Don't hurt her, don't hurt me," it feels like it is mostly, if not entirely, coming from Ruby. Consider the following. For those of us out there who, for any various reasons, are locked into the mindset of always caring for protecting others, what happens when you're finally forced to care about yourself? I don't like this. Shut the fuck up. As Garnet, Ruby is now forced to consider her own safety in tandem with Sapphire, with their newfound experience as a fusion, whereas before, the only thought and only priority was protect the VIP.
Car stuff. Hey Charlie, get your tire pressure checked. Once a month is preferred. I don't know if you got discount tire near you, but if you do, I'd recommend rolling through one. They usually have a whole setup dedicated to checking the pressure and tread depth of your tires for free because it's one of the main sources of new customers. I used to work at one. If the light doesn't go away, it's because a sensor went bad in one of the tires. It's fine. It's not a serious problem unless it bothers you. They also offer to check which sensors are bad, but replacing them isn't super worth the money. I sincerely hope and assume you've already gotten your oil changed. If somehow you haven't, hey Robert, can we make a new homework assignment for Charlie? For Robert. For Robert, you didn't specify the year on your Versa, but depending on how old it is, I did encounter a mass airflow code on a 2012 Versa. The solution was that the tube that runs from the air filter to where the air goes into the engine was torn, which caused a vacuum leak. Too much air gets in. If replacing the MAF or MAF sensor didn't resolve the issue, I wonder if that tidbit maybe have helped you. Best of luck. I did in fact get an oil change.
Hell yeah. I did some introspection in regards to gender and how to do it, and I've come up with 2 findings. Oh, please enlighten us. The biggest development is that I have created a goal for how I want to build my body. That goal is Ambessa motherfucking Medora. I don't know who this is.
Do I need to look this up?
Maybe. I do not think I can elaborate. The second development is that I was incorrect in my prior statement that my chosen name of Ruby was not influenced by media. It came from the song Ruby by 21 Pilots from their hidden album Regional at Best. I feel so fucking old that I have been a 21 Pilots fan almost since the beginning of 21 Pilots, and I've reached that old age where I think I classify as getting older as not liking the newer stuff your favorite band makes, and I was not a huge fan of the most recent album.
Sorry, I was looking up the character, and it seems to be a League of Legends character. Maybe Arcane character as well?
Maybe. That's why I didn't know who that was. I have not League of Legends in a billion years.
Back up Ray's theory that all gems have perfect pitch. Not that anyone was trying to attack it. I would like to pose a fun fact that I found some musicians thoroughly hate about music. All music is math. That is so right, and I'm not a musician, and that's probably why, because it's a lot of math. If you were to create a melody and then develop a harmony, but then convert the notes into their respective frequency values, you can kind of see how it all fits together from a sheer mathematical standpoint. I learned that in orchestra. Some people hate hearing that because you can't boil down the creativity and flow of music into numbers. To use Peridot as an example, Stephen basically says, overlay this frequency with that frequency and match the timing. Peridot is able to parse the math out of it without thought and perform it perfectly. Gems knowing math also lines up with the idea of Gemkind being a spacefaring race. You have to know math like a second language to explore the stars. I also wonder if the natural development of gems and minerals follows some form of math that I don't know about. That's a lot of math for me. Charlie just wants to take a nap now that we've
I'm the math gay.
talked about
Charlie
math
is
so
the
much.
English gay.
Correct. I didn't know great gays could do math. Good to know.
As I had stated previously, I would love to send posts regularly, but I wonder and fear if it is a bit awkward to be stuck in the past when viewed from the perspective of when the episodes are recorded versus when they are released. I hope to join the Discord server sometime soon. Becoming a patron, I'll do it in the hopes that it will allow me to be in on the loop behind the scenes and guide the topics and themes of future posts. Kind of like the joke advertisement post for Keystone Motel, I think it would be fun if the post could add something to the episode being discussed. I, so, hey, here's a secret: is that I think I've joked about it on the podcast. I have such a weird relationship with time and a weird fear of time, and being a podcaster has not really helped that weird fear of time and relationship to it, because we are recording in our present, which will be your past, which will be out, which by the time you listen to this will be our past, but your present, which is a weird thing I don't want to think about. Immortalizing humans in video and audio is probably one of the things that give me anxiety the most. I say this as a YouTuber.
Time is an illusion, and so are pants.
I'm just trying to build my sandcastle before the tide of time wash it away.
Oh, you're building sandcastles with Shadowheart? That was a niche reference only for Baldur's Gate 3 fans. I'm so sorry. All right. End of post question. What is either your most recent or most memorable 2 nickels moment? I recently had one with some anime I was rewatching. If I had a nickel for every time isekai anime / manga that involved an MC that did not initially want shit to do with what's going on and then accidentally developed a harem, but kind of used said harem as a bunch of kids, of which the MC basically becomes the father figure of, I would have 2 nickels. And it is very, very weird that this specific scenario occurred twice. The 2 anime in question are Rising of the Shield Hero and Gate. Thus, the JSDF fought there. That was letters.
As a spiral into mania, I send onto thee my love from Jake. My the funny thing is that I actually made a meme and posted about it on the relevant subreddit, is that in the John and Hank Green community, the Nerd Fighters, John Green, approximately 9 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that, went to the Indy 500, left early before the race finished, flew to England, watched a third-tier English team, AFC Wimbledon, advance from League 2 to League 1, or Tier 2 to Tier 1, League 2 to League 1, and it was a grand spectacle. And now, very recently, 9 years later, John Green went to the Indy 500, left before the race finished, flew to London, and watched AFC Wimbledon go from League 1 go from League 2 to League 1. So, yeah, it's weird that it happened twice, but also God bless the random things that happen in life. It's the best part.
I don't know if I've had a 2 nickels moment recently, but if we're talking about like 2 nickels in media specifically, I do have a very good niche one. If I had a nickel for every time a what's the word for the type of media I'm trying to think of? Young adult children's adventure media featuring a young cishet white boy. Oh wow, that's just all of them. Goes on this wonderful adventure, becomes the chosen one, does all of this shit, and then at the end of it, people die, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go back in time, and none of this ever actually happened. I'm gonna go back to the day that this all started, and I'm gonna make sure I don't do that thing that made me the chosen one, so that the media that Charlie cares about does not matter. That investing my time and energy into this one plot does not fucking matter because it didn't actually happen according to the ending.
Wild.
What a fucking cop-out. And this happened in 2 of like they were my favorite medias up until these endings. And there's a reason why I got rid of all of the Cirque du Freak books, because I couldn't bear to reread them after that. Oh, I do still rewatch Troll Hunters though. I do want to ask a question of the person who sent that recent message. Would you rather us call you Ruby, or do you want to be called Ruby? I just want to clarify.
I did not even think of that. Good catch.
Just
Oh my
because
God.
it was mentioned Ruby is chosen
Chosen
name.
name.
So I'm like,
yes, I completely blanked on that. That is my fault. I'm so sorry.
And Ruby are okay, or is it just Ruby you would prefer to be called? Because, you know?
We want to respect what you want and need from. And then our last one is from Kyla. Charlie, I think you should just read the whole thing. This is definitely
Just read the whole thing at once kind of post.
Yes.
Pride Post. Boardwalk Pride Parade this Friday featuring local vendors. Insert photo of the Fryman and pizza families wearing shirts with rainbow logos of their respective businesses. God, the rainbow capitalism. It's reached Beach City.
A good thing that it's still in Beach City, because as much as I've shit on rainbow capitalism,
I know, right? It's gone.
It's not been around.
It's
not been
gone.
around this year. It's gone.
Live music. Insert photo of Sadie and Shep on stage. Good. It's the gays. Love and community. Insert photo of various townies and gems just having a good time at Funland. Parade starts at 11 a.m. at the Big Donut at Beach Access Drive and ends at Funland Amusement Park at 10 Bay Street. All Beach City Funland locations will be offering discounted admission from 12 to 6 p.m. Contact Harold Smiley for more information. Celebrate your pride with your fellow boardies all month long. Parade presented by the Beach County Event Committee. Wow, they have a committee. P.S. Writing this post is how I found out the wiki has a map of Beach City with street names? Wild! I obviously made up the house numbers and can't confirm how the official street names are, but somehow I put the effort in, and I thank them for it. Happy Pride, y'all! And Kyla sent us a link to the Beach City map from the wiki. That's amazing. Love that. We love to see it.
So, talking about spin-off series and potential future content aside, Charlie, what are we here for today?
Oh, I think it's a certain month. I think we kind of try to do something basically every year of this pod. Usually gay related, maybe? I don't know.
Happy Pride, yeah, beans. I love how this episode's coming out on Friday the 13th. So I hope you have a very lucky day, you homosexuals and they thems who are listening to this podcast. If you're not a homosexual or they them, get the fuck out of here. Get out right now. Get out right fucking now. I say this as a bisexual. Get out of here.
You realize that we've had 3 cishet male guests, right?
All of them were white. Wow, we had 3 cishet white male guests on our show.
Correct.
And 2 of them had funny accents. Technically
Sorry,
3,
DJ.
I guess. I was gonna say technically 3. Do we want to count DJ as an accent? Like, that's not really an accent. That's just like Idahoan.
Hey, why are you calling DJ a hoe? Or are you calling yourself a hoe? I don't know.
Brother. So, in tradition of Pride Month, we want to do another new little Pride episode. Hello, hi. We are here talking about
we're gay.
Arguably the gayest part of Steven Universe, fusion.
It's both the gayest part, and it's also kind of how we got introduced to gay in the show, I feel like.
True.
Like, before we got confirmation that Pearl had a thing for Rose, we found out that Garnet was 2 lesbians in a trench coat.
You gotta walk the kids slowly into the concept of gays. So, like, first you gotta explain to people that sometimes a relationship is just 2 lesbians in a trench coat. And then you gotta explain to kids that sometimes a relationship is you and a rock star in the 90s fighting over a beautiful pink woman, and then he impregnates her and she explodes.
She explodes.
That's how it happens, right? She just explodes. She explodes, and like Steven's just there in the remains.
Oh my god! I mean, we don't know how it happened. You know.
When I send the emails to like Rebecca Sugar and all the other people who worked on the show, being like, "Hey, would you like to humor us by coming on this podcast?" and they all say no, I will be linking this episode to be like, "Hey, listen how terrible we are."
Yep. We're absolutely the worst. Come on our show. We make really bad jokes and talk about media. Also, we're really gay, if that wasn't clear enough.
You think I'm gay? You think I like to do gay things?
Well, I know you like to kiss a boy.
Who told you?
Mac.
Motherfucker. So, fusion, Charlie. Fusion.
Yeah, fusion. You know, you suggested this actually. This should be our Pride episode, is that we talk about like fusion and like a more lengthy discussion, because we always talk about And like whenever it comes up on the show, we're just like, hey, so like fusion, it's not just sex, it's a lot of other things. It's a lot of different relationship things. It can be sexual, it can be romantic, it can be platonic.
It is literally just unity. It's literally just in this at least in this universe, in this world's ideology, it is the purest way for two beings to get closer together.
Yeah. And so what I had an idea to do is that we try to ask some of our previous queer guests about this specific topic.
And almost all of them ignored us during Pride Month. Damn, well, no, okay, they didn't ignore us. A lot of them were just like, I don't think I have anything to say. And it's like, brother.
Who said they didn't have anything to say? Oh, wait, Chris, yeah. Yep. Well, Christina said, I don't have anything to say. Two people did not get back to us.
You know how I'm most surprised didn't have anything to say?
Hmm?
You know who I'm most surprised didn't have anything to say?
No. Who?
Zoe.
I think that they did not see the message and that I should have DM'd them, honestly.
You really should have. Zoe out here getting engaged and then switching sides is peak.
You know what? Next year, we try again.
Yeah, next year we'll yell at her.
Remember, who knows how long this pod will last now? So
Oh god. Hey,
we could be here. We could be here way long after we turn 30 now.
Oh fuck. I didn't realize I didn't put that together. Yeah, no, we'd still have episodes after we turn 30. This was supposed to be a beautiful swan song send-off to our 20s, where we would finish this podcast shortly after turning 30, and that would be like the end, I guess. They would be like roll credits and then Linkin Park plays in the background.
I think this is going to end up being like how Mary Clay did all of Tolkien, and then it was like, oh look, Rings of Power, new content. Sure, let's cover that once in a while. But like, the podcast isn't like currently ongoing because there's not more content happening.
So we keep teasing it. Fusion. What the fuck is fusion? We've talked about it. We have a few prompts that we're going to answer ourselves, and also we've asked, as we said, a couple of our previous guests to sort of just talk about fusion and how wonderful it is and its relationship to queerness and togetherness and relationships and all that good jazz.
Yeah. So what I sent our friends was, the Steven Universe had one of the most iconic queer relationships in a cartoon represented through Garnet, a fusion of Ruby and Sapphire. What does the LGBTQIA plus rep in Steven Universe mean to you through Garnet and the rest of the show's queer characters? What do you make of the connections the gems have through fusion? Who is your favorite gem fusion?
So I think we should start in order. We are going to answer the questions first, and then you get to listen to our lovely friends who took time out of their days to answer these questions as well. So the first question about LGBTQIA plus rep in Steven Universe, and what does it mean to us through Garnet and the rest of the show's queer characters? You want to go first, Charlie? You've had a much longer, or a much deeper relationship with this show than I do, I think.
You know, I was in fact like coming to terms with some of my queerness in college when I started watching this show. I don't think I was like fully out as gender fluid when like this show had come out, and I was like just really expressing my bisexuality at that point. So yeah, it was very interesting to like actually see in a media, hey, like there's these quote unquote female presenting characters in a relationship. You know, gems have no gender.
No.
But like also like gems have no gender and they use she her pronouns. Wild? Interesting.
And that's you get the average everyday person to understand he, him, lesbians.
Yeah, exactly. It's like baby's first gay show, honestly.
Quite literally, because I think this might be, I think we've talked about it, this is like probably the first cartoon to have this level of like unambiguous queerness.
Yeah.
We were asked last year to be sort of like guest voices or to lend our voices to My Cabbages when they were doing their Pride episode, and we spoke at length about how Korasami was the beginning of positive queer media in children's cartoons.
Yeah, exactly. That's literally what I was gonna bring up. I was like, yeah, before this we had the Korasami, which was holding hands and looking at each other lovingly as the Avatar's love instrumental plays and it cuts out. So it's like that was gay before we had Steven Universe.
What people fail to realize now, I think especially like kids these days, teenagers these days, not to sound like an old man, is that to real queer, like the positivity, even with all the negativity there is about the LGBTQIA plus in general because of the right wing politics structure, all the positivity we've had and all the acceptance we've managed to gain is such a new thing. Homosexuality was denounced as a mental disorder in the 70s. It was illegal to be gay until 2003. Gay people couldn't get married until 2015, which is when this show was coming out.
Yeah, shout out to gay marriage being almost 10 years old at the point of this coming out.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. So what I need people to realize is that not even just through the specific characters of Garnet or Pearl or Sadie and her partner or any implications you can think about Lapidot, sorry. These characters even back then in 2015 were so revolutionary. And I feel like a lot of kids now are spoiled by Amphibia, is that what it's called? And Owl House and Heartstopper and a bunch of other things. Hell, God.
It's so sad for me to think about how the Owl House is spoiling us. Like, like that's still crumbs to me.
Oh, absolutely.
It is absolutely crumbs. But when you get someone who watches that before they go and watch, say, like Korra, I made a friend watch Avatar and told her about the Legend of Korra, and like, yeah, like Korra saw me at the end, and she was like, yeah, I was kind of disappointed by it, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's the original like crumbs that we got, like that.
Yeah,
that's what we could get in 2014. And Steven Universe was only 2015.
Yeah, even as somebody who at that point, and I know this is a Steven Universe podcast, but it is important to talk about any queer identities and any queer relationships and any queer media representation in a children's cartoon. We need to talk about Korrasami and Legend of Korra, because that was the blueprint essentially. And I say this because, like, yes, you could have potentially reference characters. Oh, that character acts a certain way. And then, years later, the creator can be like, oh, finally, it's a more accepting time. I can say, yes, that character was queer, was trans, was some wonderful letter in the acronym LGBTQIA+.
And then you can talk about how, like, there's anime, like the animes of like the 90s and such. There were so many gay characters, like look at Cardcaptor Sakura and Sailor Moon, and it's like, okay, but look at how they were in America in the 90s and how censored they were. So like, this is definitely specifically talking about queer cartoons in America, like this conversation.
If your country is cool and your country has a cartoon aimed at kids that has openly queer characters, fantastic. Please tell us about it. We don't know about every cartoon in the world. But as for American cartoons, yeah, no, it's a commodity. There was a wonderful wonderful Netflix show called Paranorman. Gang, I completely butchered it. I was talking about Paranormal Park. Paranorman is also a good movie, but I was talking about Paranormal Park. Which featured,
right,
I think, the first trans main character in a cartoon aimed at children. And like, yeah, there were some episodes and some scenes focused on his transition and how he felt about certain things in regards to it. But for the most part, it was just a silly cartoon about a guy running a haunted amusement park or whatever the hell it was really about. I forget exactly.
Okay. I think I remember seeing like a Facebook post about it, and I thought it was that there was like one character in it who's like this jock or something, and he mentions his boyfriend at some point. And
is that not the jock character from, I want to say it's Halloweeny?
Is that Frankenweenie? I thought it was Paranorman.
Frankenweenie. Paranorman is a Netflix television program. It's a cartoon.
Okay. Either way, it was something that was spooky and I think stop motion.
And that was even earlier. That was probably, honestly, truly the first openly queer character in a cartoon.
Yeah, because I remembered seeing several posts about like, hey, the creators decided to show everybody what the boyfriend looks like. And it's been,
oh yes, like, that was a recent thing. Yes,
I don't know, 10 years later or something, maybe longer.
Yes, 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 yes. But back to Steven Universe. So through all those lenses of everything that happened before Steven Universe and everything that happened since, specifically focusing on characters like Garnet, I think it is, for all the shit we give Steven Universe, and it's like mainly joking, where we're like, oh, Steven Universe is so dark. Oh, help Steven, so help Steven, Steven help, Steven help. That's a joke I have going on throughout the podcast. There's so much, but there's also so much positivity, and that positivity, a lot of it comes from the relationships the characters have with each other. And one set of characters that have a really, really positive relationship are Ruby and Sapphire, who form Garnet. Ruby and Sapphire are, for all intents and purposes, just an average couple. Yes, they understand each other and they get along and they love each other very well. They also bicker and argue. They also disagree on things sometimes. They also need space from each other. They also have their own flaws that they have to deal with and work around, and not just sort of magic fairy wand it away and be like, oh, my traumas and problems get solved because I'm gay and I'm in love.
Yeah, and like that's the thing about the show is they really let you see that like this is a real relationship. Like even though most of the time they are fused as Garnet, the times that we see Ruby and Sapphire separately is very poignant. It's very like specifically chosen, and we get like their reactions to like wow, it's a lot of Pearl reactions actually. Like it's the Pearl reaction of like, oh, she used fusion to like get it like to make us or to make herself feel stronger. We hate that. No, we don't. Blah blah blah. And then Pearl revealing the whole pink diamond of it all. Like, it's just. And then they figure out that they have to be okay on their own, and that is like so good and so important for like any relationship, not just queers.
I was about to say that I don't even think that's an idea that we see in cis het couples in children's media. Genuinely speaking, for as much as, because you and I have backgrounds in Percy Jackson podcasts, as much as we love
Mhm.
Percy and Annabeth together, they have rarely, a lot of, especially recent Percybeth, has been like, oh, we need to be together all the time.
They
Are
are codependent.
they are very, very codependent. They are very codependent. And honestly, I mean, depending, slight spoilers for a book series that's been out for 10 plus years, but hey, they literally went through hell together. So at a certain point, you can kind of understand it, but also imagine if Rick in like the newest book that'll come out next year probably has a section where Percy and Annabeth figure themselves out.
That would be actually, you know what? He kind of does need that for the third of the trilogy. Not to talk about Percy Jackson for a second, but like that does kind of need to be a thing.
What's a really popular cishet couple, mainly aimed at kids? Yeah, I know, right? Every single I'm like, I can scroll through
I
like
watch
10.
too many gay shows. Sorry.
I watch and listen to too much gay shit. That being said, oh my god, hey, side tangent. I read a very bad queer book and I loved it. That it was bad. It's a weird thing. Anyway,
I think just honestly, that's kind of one of the things. Like again, we're just kind of talking about queer things broadly, which is like fine, of course. Adding queer things into media also tends to it comes from like queer people who are just like so smart about it and so educated about it and are like, hey, let's come at this from like an adult perspective instead of just like, oh, like boy meets girl, they like each other, that's it, that's all that matters. It's like, no, let's have them have like a relationship and have like they have struggles and they go through things, and like they have to learn how to be by themselves sometimes.
one of the best, I think, ideas in Steven Universe was how, especially because a lot of homophobic countries who would want to air it this way, were really counting on like, oh, Ruby's the more butch looking one. We can just say Ruby's a guy and we'll make it straight for our country. And then the wedding episode happens and they put Ruby in the dress and Sapphire in the suit. And I think that was a perfect idea.
That was so smart, Rebecca Sugar. That was the smartest thing you've done. I love it. Beautiful. I wouldn't have seen that coming.
No, And then that's just also, what does the LGBTQIA plus rep mean to me in regards to that would be, it's all fluid. Even if you are dead straight, even if you think like that, like, listen, there's a little bit of fluidity of everyone. Just because you are the more butch presenting in your quote unquote lesbian rock relationship does not necessarily mean you just have to dress in a suit or dress in, what do butches wear? I don't know.
What
I don't
am
know
I
what the
wearing? I'm wearing like a muscle tank.
Oh, a muscle tank. Yeah.
Some flannel.
Charlie came to this dressed gayer than I did because they
It's
are wearing.
also a Steven shirt, so
It's the Steven
technically
shirt.
the Greg shirt, but
It's Steven Universe Future shirt.
yeah, I've worn this for my Greg cosplay. It's the black star tank top, but yeah.
And I'm just
hot
wearing
today.
I'm just wearing my work outfit because I'm lazy and tired.
You know, Steven Universe, what does the queer rep mean to me? It just makes me happy.
Yeah.
You know, like, I come back to Hit the Diamond so often in my thinking about like the queerness in the show. That episode just makes it feel so normal. Like, you know,
Yeah.
they're just being cute. They're just flirting with each other, and everybody
doing their own
knows
thing.
it.
Yeah. But we aren't the only people who answered this question. We asked a few of our friends that we said, so how about we start playing what our friends said?
Hi, this is Abby. So excited to be back for another Pride episode. I love the LGBTQ representation in Steven Universe. I think that Garnet being queer, but you don't see it at first, means that you really get to know Garnet authentically before you learn this thing about her. And I'm super thankful that it is part of her, but not the only thing about her. She's such a badass and really incredible.
Howdy guys, happy Pride. I don't want to diminish the work of those who came before, but for me, Steven Universe really felt like the first big domino in the chain of queer representation in media that was made specifically for children. I remember watching Legend of Korra and saying, Korra and Asami seem to be getting really close. But then thinking to myself, no, there's no way they'll do anything with that, because the show is made for kids, supposedly. And then, of course, the finale happens, and oh my gosh, they hold hands! Hooray! And of course, here we are in the future thinking, they held hands. That's really sad that that's where the bar was, but that's where it was. And they did it. And that was a big deal. But, you know, it was the very last few frames of the very last episode of the series. Like, they didn't have as much to lose at that point. So they finally said, fuck it, let's do this. And it worked out. And then we have Steven Universe, where Pearl's devotion to Rose is very much queer, but it could, if somebody had to say otherwise, be framed as just devotion to a person and a cause. Even though we all know it's more than that. There was arguably some plausible deniability there for a long while. And then the show introduces the concept of fusion to us, which is very much just showing in Giant Woman, Pearl and Amethyst can finally get along for once and accomplish a goal together. 2 heads are better than 1 sometimes, and so are 4 arms better than 2, and so on. Of course, we get Jailbreak, where we find out that one of the main characters of the series has, this entire time, been a fusion made of love. And there's no denying how gay that is. And I'm sure the Crewniverse and Rebecca Sugar were, waiting anxiously for the release of that episode to see what would happen, Would audiences be okay with this? Would they not? Would the show be canceled? Because this was the season 1 finale. They had a lot more show in mind. They had a lot more story to tell. What if this was the nail in the coffin? And it wasn't. They fought hard. They got their queer characters on screen. And then the show continued on for years. And while it was airing and after it aired, more shows said, hey, we can also have a queer character here and there, and possibly everywhere if we want to mixed degrees of success in terms of execution and longevity of the show. R.I.P. the Owl House. But, there's a bunch of other little instances here, there, and everywhere from, like, the Loud House had one of the 17,000 sisters have a girlfriend. Or at least a crush on a girl. I'm pretty sure they got up together. And, like, Kipo had a character say, quote, "I'm gay." That's a big deal. Again, the bar was so low for so long that these things were, and still kind of are, big victories. They had Adventure Time finally had Marceline and Bubblegum be queer on screen and not just have the creators say, "Oh yeah, they used to date, but not anymore." Almost definitely just because they didn't think they could, for lack of a better phrase, get away with showing them being gay on screen. And now here we are. They got to do it. For real. Oh my gosh. And just all kinds of little steps here and there along the way that just go so far in normalizing that characters can use they them pronouns, that girls can kiss girls and boys can kiss boys, and that's not in any way inherently more sexual, more mature, more whatever the TV guide says than a boy kissing a girl or vice versa. It kind of started to feel like Think of the Children could also include the queer children, because the shows were still succeeding. If there was backlash, it was still worth doing.
The next question we asked both ourselves and others were, what do you make of the connections the Gems have through fusion? And I think we answered that a lot already, that it's any form of relationship, because let's see what we have. We have Ruby and Sapphire, who form one of the things you also need to point out about fusion is that the more compatible two characters are, the more perfect their fusion is.
So Ruby and Sapphire have the almost perfect relationship that you can have. Maybe the perfect relationship for Gems, like a third eye. That's not that weird for Gems. They don't have any other extra body parts. They're pretty much the blueprint. But our other fusion blueprint is Stevonnie, who looks fully human except for the gem. Steven and Connie, the best friends, two lovers, because their relationship does evolve. It does become more of a romantic relationship. They're still children, but it does eventually get there. And that's what Rebecca Sugar intended, as far as I know. Always, that they always had these feelings for each other, and it was always going to evolve in this sort of way. And
the childhood friends to lovers, it's classic trope.
And it's also just one of those really great bases for a romantic relationship anyway, is the you're friends, but also you like other things with each other.
Yeah. To, paraphrase what Garnet says when seeing Stevonnie for the first time, you are an experience.
And that's how you can take all of the different fusions, all the different relationship forms that we have. Fusion is an experience. That's what I want to name this episode, something like that, the experience of fusion, or fusion is an experience, because that's what it is.
We also, also talking about relationships, I think the show also has a decent idea of showing, actually a very good idea of showing what a toxic relationship is by having Jasper and Lapis fuse.
And they become Malachite.
Literally breaking apart. There's a lot of symbolism. It is a relationship that's constantly on the verge of being broken apart, being held together by Lapis, who really doesn't want to, but she feels like she has no other choice.
Yeah, exactly. That is so grown up of a thing, and also not at the same time. It's so complicated of a relationship to have.
It really is. And then when they do, for all intents and purposes, we can say the word break up, because they unfuse, and then Lapis joins the Gems. Jasper goes on her own path. Jasper at some point begs Lapis to fuse back with her, which is something that Lapis rejects because she's grown. She has a support system. She no longer feels emotionally trapped by Jasper. Even if they weren't fused anymore, she still felt some level of emotional entrapment.
And even more than that, Lapis didn't like who she was with Jasper. And she's like, I don't want to be that person anymore. I want to break free of this. It's so interesting. Jasper, who started Fusion is a tactic to make weak gems stronger.
Excuse me, if you're gonna say it right. It's fusion, just a cheap tactic to make weak gems stronger.
There you go. And from her to go from that to begging someone to fuse with her so that she can feel that
Because
strength.
Jasper's a toxic person who I feel like when toxic people get quote unquote into a relationship, they're literally, because as we said earlier in this physical but actual is also as a metaphor, Lapis is the one holding everything together. Jasper essentially was not in any kind of control, and that seems like bad when you say it out loud that she wasn't in any control, but Jasper didn't have to do anything for a long time. She was not in any control of Malachite.
You know, some people are into that.
Oh my god.
Listen, we are an explicit podcast.
We are an explicit podcast. We say fuck. Hey, fascism's bad.
Exactly, we do.
That's something you should say during Pride. Fascism bad.
I can't say the word. Fascism is very bad. Yes, correct. But
we can also briefly talk about the other fusions that are also exemplary of platonic fusions. All the gems can fuse with each other in some shape, or form. You have Opal,
which is like always such an interesting one because it's the first, it's quote unquote the first fusion we see, even though we already knew Garnet. And it's our two characters who we always have thought to be the most opposite to each other, Pearl and Amethyst. But when they work together, they create magic, right?
Literally. And then we have Sugilite, which is just pure destruction. It is when you have the most chaotic, and there's maybe something to look at that Garnet's very self-destructive, maybe? Not necessarily. Garnet is also an addition to this very destructive and chaotic fusion that I think it's also an example of just a different form of a toxic relationship.
Yeah, it's like my brain wants to compare it to the real Boys Will Be Boys. when you're just, having a night with the guys and you just can't not have fun and just like doing stupid shit and cannot get their head on straight, basically.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. We also
Sardonyx,
who is very, very playful, very charming and fun, and just sort of, she literally breaks the fourth wall. Like that's how much of a that's how much of a sort of, I don't want to say prankster, but like how sort of she's a relationship of it is what it is. She's
a relationship of just like giggly lesbians who are like, we made another pun. That was so good. That's what the three of them are together.
Yeah, absolutely. And then all of that together makes Alexandrite, which is, I think when you combine all of that into a concoction like Alexandrite, you do have a little bit of that chaotic energy, but you also have a lot more control.
Yeah.
And then when you add Steven into the mix and you get Obsidian, that is just straight to the point, mission objective, no funny business.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you get some of the Steven fusions, and like, I mean, Smoky Quartz
icon
makes me look in the mirror and cry too often.
I guess I'm too tough to cry.
I mean, Smokey is not too tough to cry. Listen, you saw that same commercial that I did, okay? I'm never gonna stop thinking about that when I think of Smokey. But like, it's Steven and it's Amethyst, and what they bring out in each other is like, hey, they're like best buddies, and they also like make jokes together, but also they're the most insecure of the gems, and so they bring out that same aspect in each other, and so it's amplified.
Right.
So it's that like brother-sister relationship that they have going on, but it's also like self-deprivation.
Lamau crawling in my skin. No. Then we have Rainbow Quartz 2.0, which is just, I mean,
because we really have nothing to say about the original.
Other than it's gay. And then Rainbow Quartz 2.0 is flamboyant as fuck, out and about, wants to kind of be the center of attention. It's Steven and Pearl, absolutely.
Like the two who sing the most about their feelings. become that. It
Yeah.
makes sense to me. They're all rainbows and
Arguably-
sunshine.
Arguably the characters that also cry the most in the show.
Who are also still the most rainbows and sunshine characters.
And then Sunstone.
Sunstone is just Ruby, Sapphire, and Steven being like, we're the parent friends, actually.
Yeah.
Did you not know? Because like Garnet is mom.
Garnet is mom. She is Square Mom.
And Steven is honestly a dad friend, right? I think he's a dad friend. I think that's what they all bring out in each other is like that, like, hey kids, be careful. I don't know. That's just that's the vibe that they give off. So it makes me think of like the parent friends.
I think my favorite gem fusion is Alexandrite because I love when the three of them combine together to save Steven. They really don't do it a lot, but when they do, it's always because they care so much about him and they want to make sure that he's okay. To fuse really shows how much they love each other, how much they understand each other. Because not all gems are able to fuse, right? Like Peridot never is able to fuse with anyone. And I think part of that is because she just doesn't want to. And when you're open to those ideas and you're open to exploring kind of who you are in your body and what it means to be in this gem formation and to be part of that team, they're able to make those connections, which I think is so symbolic for exploring your sexuality, exploring your gender, coming out, things like that. I love all of it. I think it's a really great metaphor. I think Steven Universe does a really good job of showing instead of telling, which is something that Charlie, you told me as we were watching this so often.
It was nice because we got to see Garnet as Garnet, the leader of the Crystal Gems, representing, a healthy, long-term romantic relationship. And we also did get to see Ruby and Sapphire separated, being gay together, or having fights because even the healthiest couples will still have disagreements here and there, but they would still go back to each other in the end. And, the show really used fusion as a wonderful way to illustrate the complexities of relationships, especially for the targeted audience of younger kids, to visually see these people are in harmony, these people are not in harmony, these people are able to do things in sync and accomplish a goal, or just be stargazing together, or something is going wrong and they are falling apart, and they may or may not end up back together. And I'm sure everyone is going to share wonderful, lovely thoughts about Garnet and Ruby and Sapphire being fury and patience and a conversation, and Stevonnie being an experience, and other wonderful things that these relationships can hold. But the show does go far enough to say, hey, not all relationships are good and healthy, and they show that most obviously through the fusion of Malachite, because Lapis was tricking Jasper all along, and Jasper just wanted to punch hard. They did not enter this fusion coming from the same place, and they did not end it from the same point of view. It was a constant struggle for literal dominance, and it ended badly for both of them. It's interesting because most fusions we see tend to fall apart when they are no longer in sync. Like, Opal falls apart several times because Pearl and Amethyst are reacting to some circumstances differently, like when Steven returns in The Return, Opal is there for a moment, and then Amethyst is excited to see Steven is back, and Pearl is very worried, so Opal stops being because they are no longer in sync. Garnet almost falls apart in keeping it together because Ruby and Sapphire are having big feelings about the fusion experiments, the gem shards that are, body horror for gems. Malachite, despite being made of two gems who are not at all in sync, does still persist, because sometimes bad relationships will continue on. You have Lapis fighting so hard to keep Steven safe by literally holding Jasper down, metaphorically and physically, in the fusion and with the ocean, until she's just too tired. She can't fight anymore. And instead of Malachite falling apart then and there, Jasper takes over because she still wants to punch hard. And Alexandrite is right there until they are defeated and literally split apart for everyone's benefit. fusion very much works as a metaphor for all sorts of relationships, harmonious and otherwise, when you have a task in mind or not. And it works in favor of the show as a storytelling device, as a world-building bit for how the gems work, and as a visual aid for people who need to learn about how relationships work, that, hey, sometimes you'll be in sync, sometimes you won't, and sometimes that's okay, and sometimes that's not. And you can see all sides of that, quite literally, based on which gems have merged into one. Also, props to the team for being able to write a healthy, stable relationship for a long-running series, which apparently, according to all other TV shows, is impossible because no relationships can be long-standing and healthy, apparently. And then you have Ruby and Sapphire, who do have their differences, mostly when they're under immense stress from external forces, other people making them upset in some way, and they both want to cope with it differently and aren't in the headspace to be helping each other when they can't really help themselves just yet. But eventually they do work through it, thanks to the help of their friends and Steven. And then they get back to each other, because at the end of the day, they care about each other and are able to get back in sync, in harmony, because they can have those conversations and then become a new conversation. Ha 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 ha.
Before we end the episode and go into what our friends said, I think we have to answer the last question, which is, who is your favorite gem fusion? And for me, I think just because it is peak relationship, it has to be Garnet.
Doesn't matter that I came up with these questions. I am really bad at picking my favorite of anything. I just know other people are better at answering that than I am.
Just choose your favorite. Just don't think about it.
I can't not think. You know what? It's Stevonnie. It's gonna be Stevonnie. Like, they're perfection. Literally the perfect relationship. So, right there.
And so I really love the show. And thank you guys so much for inviting me to give my thoughts and be a little guest on this part of the pod. Bye!
As for my personal favorite fusion, obviously big bias towards Garnet because she does get the most screen time and she is wonderful, being Fury, patience, and a conversation. But I do also really like Opal, partially just because Pearl is my favorite crystal gem, and wow, look at that! Pearl's part of this fusion. Amazing, 11 out of 10 work. I also love Rainbow Quartz's design. Again, Pearl is there, amazing. But Opal is very good at showing how even people who butt heads can get along and get things done. Pearl and Amethyst quite literally have opposite origins of being on Homeworld versus coming out of Earth. Amethyst being a runt who was overcooked versus Pearl being a good enough Pearl to serve the diamonds. Being a servant versus Amethyst being made to be a soldier. And so much more about their personalities clashing, but despite all their differences, they can still work together because they care about each other. And it's lovely to see. I also really like Rhodonite. Again, great design. Pearls all around. They all get Pearl points. That's the TLDR of my thoughts. And once again, happy Pride.
Hello, Robert. Hello, Charlie. Hello, the Bits listeners. This is Darian chiming in. Wonderful Pride episode to talk about Garnet. Well, I am specifically a Ruby Sapphire scholar. I do have a minor in Garnet appreciation. So I'm very happy to get to talk about queer representation in children's media, specifically through Garnet, Ruby, and Sapphire. This trifecta of characters means a lot to me specifically because it is the reason I started watching Steven Universe. The early episodes that I'd seen, clips I'd seen on like Cartoon Network commercials, rather irked me. The way the show was presented was a sense of humor that I just didn't really share. It seemed kind of silly. I remember thinking, oh, this show has these three like badass magical women and some 12-year-old boy as our protagonist. Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't need to watch that. And learning there was a prominent front and center queer couple within the narrative did make me entirely rethink my perceptions of what this show was. In 2015 specifically, it definitely was something that communicated more depth and a more thoughtful approach to the narrative, especially because prior to Garnet, Ruby, Sapphire, the most queerness you were going to get in Children's Couple were Korra and Asami gazing meaningfully into each other's eyes in the finale, or Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune being cousins as a trailblazer for Amity and Luce and Catra and Adora and so many queer couples, not just sapphics, but different queerness in children's media today doesn't get to necessarily happen out Becca Sugar taking such a big swing and sticking the landing so well. Because I think another important thing about Garnet is she's such a nuanced character. Like, yes, her being a permafusion of Ruby and Sapphire, who, yes, while gems do not have a biological reproductive sex, they very certainly have gender identity and representation. So we do have these two characters who are demonstrating a sapphic relationship as same-sex couple, because even if they both don't have biological sex, that's still the same. And they are all so interesting and bold and wonderful characters, not outside of the queerness, but like in relationship and conversation to it. These are not one-note characters. These are not boiled down stereotypes about lesbian, right? And I think that's so important. There's this great quote from Isabel Sandoval, the screenwriter for Under the Banner of Heaven, where they talk about growing up in the Philippines and how she didn't know she was trans back then and largely contributed that representation of trans women on stereotypical and demonstrating elements that were like not true to a lived experience and certainly not true to her experience. Says that after she moved to the US, she saw on YouTube trans individuals from various backgrounds. One was a writer, one was working in a nonprofit organization, some were married and had families. And they were asking themselves the same question I had been asking myself. And I think that's why Garnet, Ruby, Sapphire being such dynamic and distinct and unique characters and different, they're also different from each other, is super important because representation matters for a lot of reasons. It in part matters because it communicates who we believe is worthy of having stories told about them, but it also opens the door for individuals in our culture to discover things about themselves or develop the language to explain and define themselves. I did not realize I was ace for a very long time because any of the examples of asexuality I encountered simply did not match myself and my lived experience in the way I connect and communicate with others. And so I very much think that personalities of these characters do offer a lot of opportunity for viewers to connect with them and find pieces of themselves beyond stereotypes that they have encountered before. And then Garnet as a representation, this metaphor is not subtle. Like when we go beyond just Ruby and Sapphire, she, her characters, and the response that Homeworld gems have to Garnet as a cross-gem fusion, it becomes abundantly clear what Rebecca Sugar is attempting to communicate. And I think that is incredibly bold and powerful storytelling. And there are a lot of ways to read all these metaphors, but in the context of Pride, in the context of queer representation, like I think it deserves all of its flowers. More to the point, Garnet, Ruby, Sapphire as the an interrogation of relationship, I think it's also super interesting because this is not, well, we would represent Garnet. We view Garnet as being like the most put together. We know she gets her strength, her stability, her confidence from being this literal experience, this personification of this bond between Ruby and Sapphire. We know they are imperfect. They are imperfect characters. They have their grievances with each other. They go through obstacles. They make mistakes. And that's wonderful because every relationship is going to have those kind of things, even wonderful, healthy, fulfilling ones. And it is how we respond, how people respond to each other when they face those hard times that demonstrate the power and strength and importance of a relationship. And also, I think Rebecca Sugar was very intentional in not presenting the idea that there is ultimate fulfillment through a relationship, while Garnet truly does represent this as a character. We also have the line from Ruby about how she used to think she wasn't worth very much by herself, and then being with Sapphire and being Garnet and the things they were able to accomplish help her see the value in herself, because she was a part of contributing to this, and how it helped. A good relationship is going to help each member of it grow and be a part of their fullest selves. And I think transitioning into the broader idea of like the fusions and gem fusion as a metaphor for relationship and for bonds, it is obviously not just romantic or physical relationship and connection, though that is like what Ruby and Sapphire Garnet represent, but also the idea that like having a connection with somebody can create something new. Like we see that with Malachite, with Jasper and Lapis being like, this is not a good relationship. Sometimes this can be troubling, this can be harmful. But on the flip side, we can find my favorite non-Garnet fusion is Smoky Quartz, because I really, really love what Smoky represents about Steven and Amethyst and their bond, and how they've both always felt like the odd one out. They both felt like they've never enough. They both feel like they have something to prove and can never, ever actually prove that thing. And when we meet Smoky, and they are just so fun and so confident and so silly and playful, and the fact that their weapon is the yo-yo is just a perfect presentation of their bond, where sometimes their Steven and Amethyst's weakness together can be they don't take things seriously enough, but that they're always learning, but the playfulness of them is not meant to be an element that they need to grow out of or dismiss, but it is something that has always brought them together. And Smoky has this kind of confidence and support and reassurance, because that is what Steven and Amethyst are able to offer each other. They truly understand what that feels like, and coming together and being something new and someone brilliant and fun and optimistic. I think Garnet represents the strength that we find from, I think Garnet represents the growth that can come from a powerful, valuable relationship. Smoky Quartz represents comfort and self-confidence we get from those who want to hold us up, who truly empathize with us. So that also, they're just a super cute design, and it's a yo-yo, and I think that's fun as hell. Side shout out, Rainbow 2.0. We didn't get to spend a lot of time with them, and to be honest, they're really only a gem I really like, because they're just obviously Taco from the Adventure Zone. So they literally have an umbrella, and that's charming too. Would have loved to see more of them, but it's got to be Smoky. Anyway, stepping back out beyond Garnet and Ruby and Sapphire, and then obviously Pearl and Rose Quartz, and Bismuth and Lapis and Peridot, and all of these characters who are, and all of the off colors we ultimately meet. Like each character is demonstrating a wide berth and breadth of existence and experience. Verse had a goal in mind, and I believe it accomplished it beautifully. And I feel incredibly fortunate to have gotten the opportunity to watch Steven Universe at the age where I could most appreciate and recognize what it was doing, and while it was still young enough for it to really influence me and the young adults I was becoming at the time. That's it. Thank you so much for having me. Lots of love, and happy Pride, everybody.
And that's it. Hey, Pride 2025. Even though it feels like there isn't a lot to be proud of, maybe because like what's happening in the world, remember that you're here, and that's more than enough to be proud of.
Yeah.
Because Charlie,
Robert,
if every podcast were straight,
we certainly wouldn't have the bits.
Happy Pride, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Dave X Media.